Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something really fundamental, reading and writing.
Absolutely fundamental.
It's just incredible when you think about it, not just a skill, but this huge human achievement, right? Communicating across time and space, getting lost in other worlds.
And unlocking real-life chances. There was that National Literacy Trust report back in 2011 linking literacy directly to reducing poverty. It's powerful stuff.
It really is. So our mission today is to dive deep into the science behind how we actually understand text. And especially for you, our listeners who are teachers, whether you're pre-service or already in the classroom, we want to explore how understanding this science can genuinely transform how you teach reading.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So here's the big question we're tackling, particularly for you educators.
Yeah.
How do we get past just testing reading comprehension and actually start teaching our learners to be skilled, confident, and maybe even joyful readers?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the first thing to grasp is that reading isn't like listening. It's not automatic.
Right, we have to learn it.
Exactly. It's learned, and it's incredibly complex, way more than it looks. When you're reading, so much is happening at once. You're decoding letters into sounds, pulling words from your mental dictionary.
Your lexical knowledge?
Precisely. And you're applying grammar, figuring out how ideas connect, inferring things the text doesn't explicitly state. It's like this intricate dance of different knowledge systems working together.
Wow. When we think about L2 learners, second language learners, what's the biggest hurdle there compared to reading in your first language?
The single biggest difference. It's almost always vocabulary, that lexical store. An L1 reader just has a vastly wider and richer bank of words they recognize instantly.
And that speed difference is huge, right?
Massive.
Yeah.
L1 readers often process text for meaning at about 250, maybe 300 words per minute. Carell and Grabe pointed out this relies entirely on instant word recognition.
So if you're stopping to puzzle out words.
Your comprehension just crawls.
Yeah.
It gets completely bogged down.
Okay, so this complex dance involves different kinds of processing. We often hear bottom up and top down. Can you break those down for us?
Sure. Think of bottom up as building from the details. Your brain focuses first on the letters, the sounds, the words, the grammar patterns. You're extracting meaning directly from the text on the page.
Like building with Lego bricks.
Kind of, yeah. And top down is the opposite direction. You use what you already know, your background knowledge, the context, what type of text it is to make predictions and understand the bigger picture. You're sampling the text to see if it fits your expectations.
So they work together.
Constantly, they're always interacting. And one can often compensate if the other struggles. Like if an L2 reader hits a lot of unknown words, a bottom-up problem, they might lean really heavily on context and their general knowledge, that top-down processing, to guess the meaning.
And the balance shifts.
Definitely. It depends on, say, how hard the text is, why you're reading it, how much you already know about the topic. It's very dynamic.
And this leads into Grabe's two models of comprehension, doesn't it? The text model and the situation model.
Exactly. The text model is quite close to that bottom-up idea. It's about processing the words and grammar to build a mental picture of what the text literally says, meaning derives straight from the text.
Okay.
But the situation model, that's richer. It's where you, the reader, combine the text information with your own background knowledge, your beliefs, your attitudes.
So that's why two people can read the same news article.
And come away with totally different interpretations.
Yeah.
Yes. They might agree on the basic facts, the text model, but their situation model, colored by their own experiences and views, leads to a unique understanding.
Which really shows reading isn't just passive decoding.
Not at all. It's, as Thornbury put it, an active, even interactive process. Every reader constructs meaning.
And when that construction gets tough, good readers have tricks up their sleeve, strategies.
Absolutely. While a lot is automatic for skilled readers, they consciously manage difficulties. They might reread a tricky bit, guess a word from context, maybe pause and summarize what they've read so far. Anderson highlighted that successful readers use a whole toolkit of these strategies, often together.
And teaching those strategies is key for educators.
Crucial. Explicitly teaching them helps learners navigate challenging texts.
Okay, let's bring this right into the classroom context.
No.
Why do people read outside of school? Grellett mentioned two main reasons.
Yeah, broadly speaking, pleasure and information. Simple as that, really.
But those categories cover a lot of ground.
Oh, definitely. Pleasure could be scrolling social media, reading a comic, getting lost in a novel. Information could be anything from checking a recipe to deep research for a dissertation.
And the purpose changes how you read.
Profoundly. That undergraduate doing research reads very differently, carefully, critically compared to someone flicking through a magazine at the dentist's. The purpose dictates the approach, the balance of top-down and bottom-up.
Which means learners need flexible skills.
Exactly. They need to adapt their reading style to the task and the text. That's vital for real-world success.
And for L2 learners, there's that extra layer, isn't there? Reading to learn the language itself.
Yes. That's a unique purpose. They might read specifically to build vocabulary or improve grammar or just get more fluent through sheer exposure. It's a language learning tool in itself.
Okay, so let's dive into the different types of reading teachers often talk about. Scanning, skimming.
Right. These are about different speeds and goals. Scanning is super fast, maybe 600 words a minute. You're just looking for a specific thing, like a name or a price. It's about recognizing a specific form, not deep meaning.
Like finding your gate number on the airport screen.
Perfect example. Then skimming is reading quickly for the general idea, the gist, like glancing at a report to see if it's relevant.
And detailed or intensive reading.
That's the slow, careful reading. You want full understanding. Think instructions, contracts, academic article.
Got it. And extensive reading.
That's the one often done outside class. Reading longer texts, usually for pleasure, at a comfortable pace. Esky and Grabe really emphasized its benefits improves everything. Spelling, vocab, grammar, fluency. Just reading a lot makes you a better reader.
Which brings us to a really practical classroom question. Silent reading versus reading aloud. What's the thinking there for teachers?
It's a really important point for practice. Think about it. Most reading we do in life is silent.
True.
So silent reading should really be the main focus in the classroom. Now, the teacher reading aloud, that can be brilliant.
How so?
It models fluent reading, showing natural pausing, chunking phrases for meaning. It also exposes learners to different text types, different genres. It can be a really positive shared experience.
But learners reading aloud themselves.
That's more tricky. It can be useful for diagnosing specific pronunciation issues, maybe one-on-one, but having it dominate, probably not ideal. The effort of just saying the words correctly can actually hinder comprehension. The focus shifts to performance, not meaning.
And it can be stressful for students.
Yeah. Hugely stressful. If you do use it, definitely let learners read it silently first. Prepare. That takes some pressure off.
Okay, let's quickly touch on some history that shaped reading instruction. The phonics versus whole language debate.
Ah, yes, the reading wars. This was a big dichotomy, especially in L1 teaching, and it influenced L2 approaches too. Phonics is all about systematically teaching letter-sound links to build decoding skills. Research like Stanovich's showed this leads to better comprehension, especially early on.
And whole language.
Whole language folks, like Smith, argued phonics was dull, mechanical. They stressed getting meaning from whole, authentic text, believing phonics would just emerge naturally through lots of reading.
But where do we stand now? Especially for teachers today.
Well, Cameron made a great point, calling it a false dichotomy. It does learners a disservice because, really, they need both.
So a balanced approach.
Absolutely. Especially for beginners. You need systematic decoding skills and meaningful engagement with texts. Teachers need to blend the best of both worlds.
Right. So if balance is key, let's dig into the specific challenges L2 teachers face. L1 and L2 reading feel quite different.
They really are. The most glaring challenge is usually vocabulary, that lexical knowledge gap. An L1 kid starting school knows thousands of words already. L2 learners often start way behind.
And that 98% figure you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, Nation's argument is powerful. You need to know about 98% of the words in a text to read it comfortably and confidently. For most authentic texts, that's like 8,000 to 9,000 word families.
Wow. That's a huge target for learners and teachers, a really key number.
It underlines just how vital ongoing vocabulary development is. It's non-negotiable.
What about using their first language, L1 transfer?
That's a unique advantage L2 readers have. They can leverage knowledge from their L1 similar words, cognates, grammar patterns, how texts are typically structured, how much they can transfer. Depends on how similar the languages are, of course.
But there's a catch, the language threshold.
Exactly. You need a certain amount, a critical mass of L2 vocabulary and grammar before you can effectively apply those L1 reading strategies. If too much of the text is unknown, all your mental energy goes into basic decoding, and those higher level skills just can't kick in.
And the learning environment itself plays a role.
A huge role. L1 readers are usually swimming in text signs, books, websites. There's social motivation. L2 learners often have limited exposure outside class. And sometimes the texts used in class or those high-stakes tests can actually demotivate them or make them anxious.
That's a really important thing for teachers to keep in mind when planning.
Definitely, the whole context matters.
Okay, let's get super practical for all you pre-service and in-service teachers listening. How does this translate into structuring a reading lesson? That common three-stage model pre while post seems pretty standard.
It is, yeah. It came out of communicative language teaching, and it provides a solid framework. Pre-reading, while reading, post-reading. That pre-reading stage is absolutely vital.
Why is it so crucial? What's it actually doing for the learner?
It's doing a few key things. First, building interest and motivation. Second, activating their existing background knowledge schema, which helps with that top-down processing. And third, maybe pre-teaching a few absolutely essential vocabulary words to smooth the path for bottom-up processing. It gets them ready cognitively and emotionally.
So beyond just asking, what do you think this text is about? What are some really effective pre-reading activities teachers can use? Give us some concrete examples.
Okay, loads of great options. One I really like is what we believe. Before reading, get learners to list what they already know or believe about the topic. Then, they read specifically to check if the text confirms or contradicts their ideas. It makes the connection between their knowledge and the text explicit.
I like that. It activates prior knowledge directly. What else?
How about predicting from pictures? You give them some images related to the text, maybe throw in a couple of misleading ones, distractors, and get them to piece together a possible story or predict the content. It builds curiosity, they get invested in seeing if they were right. Very engaging, especially visually.
Great ideas. Okay, moving into the while reading phase. This is often where we see the classic comprehension questions, multiple choice, true, false. You mentioned drawbacks earlier.
Yeah, and it's a major issue. Those kinds of questions often just test recall of isolated facts. They don't really gauge overall understanding or the process of getting there.
They're product focused, not process focused.
Exactly. They don't teach how to read better. Plus, they can be artificial, stressful, and honestly just suck the joy out of reading. We need to aim for thicker questions, not just thin ones.
Thicker questions. Meaning.
Questions that require interpretation, inferring meaning, connecting ideas across the text. Things that make learners think more deeply, not just find a specific word or phrase. The focus should shift towards learners reading because they genuinely want or need to find something out.
So what are some better alternatives for teachers during that while reading time? Activities that actually teach reading skills.
Okay, let's focus on process. One simple but effective one is using symbols. Learners read and mark the text with symbols like a question mark for confusing parts, an exclamation mark for surprising points, a star for key ideas.
So it makes their thinking visible.
Precisely. It encourages active engagement, helps them pinpoint difficulties, and gives you, the teacher, great insight into their understanding.
What about summarizing? That's a key skill.
Definitely. Retelling a text is brilliant for that. Maybe in pairs or small groups, perhaps using a jigsaw approach where each person reads a different part. They have to read, understand, identify key points, and then communicate them. It's active and communicative.
Nice. Any others that focus on deeper analysis?
Summarizing with constraints is excellent for forcing learners to be concise and identify the absolute core message. Ask them to summarize a paragraph in exactly, say, 21 words, or just using bullet points. It really sharpens their focus and language control.
I can see how that would push them. Okay, and then the post-reading phase, what's the goal there?
Post-reading is about consolidation, reflection, and often extending the learning, going beyond just understanding the text.
So how can teachers facilitate that meaningfully?
A really powerful approach is reading as preparation for speaking or writing. The reading isn't the end goal, it's input for another task. Maybe they read different articles to prepare for a debate or research information for a presentation or a report.
Like the WebQuest model?
Exactly like that. It makes the reading purposeful and integrates it with other skills. Highly authentic.
What about activities focused more on reacting to the text?
This text is because works well. Give learners a few different short texts. Ask them to choose one based on a criterion most interesting, most useful, most surprising, and then justify their choice with reasons and evidence from the text. It encourages personal response and detailed recall.
And fostering critical thinking.
Essential. Simple group discussions asking things like, what new perspective did this give you? What questions do you still have? How does this connect to what you already knew? That kind of reflection pushes beyond surface understanding.
So pulling all this together, the big message for teachers seems to be moving away from just testing comprehension.
Absolutely. The dominant pattern is often just testing, not actually teaching reading skills and strategies. A truly effective program needs balance, integrating different approaches across all three stages.
Okay, so for a teacher wanting to build that balanced reading program, what are the essential pillars they need to include?
Well, first, actively help learners transfer their L1 reading skills. Don't assume it happens automatically. Second, relentlessly build their L2 sight vocabulary. That lexical core is non-negotiable for hitting the language threshold.
Makes sense. What else?
Explicitly teach reading strategies. Show them how to guess meaning, how to summarize, how to monitor their understanding. Also, work on developing reading fluency. Speed and automaticity matter for comprehension.
And extensive reading.
Crucial. Encourage reading for pleasure, reading widely. Volume really does lead to success. And finally, especially now, cultivate critical reading skills. Evaluating sources, identifying bias, navigating digital text. That's vital literacy for the 21st century.
And ideally, integrate reading into bigger tasks.
Yes. Situate reading within meaningful, communicative activities. Give learners a real reason to read beyond just answering questions about it. And many of these activity ideas we've discussed are designed to be flexible, adaptable for busy teachers.
So, to wrap up our deep dive today, understanding just how complex reading is, from the nuts and bolts of decoding right up to constructing personal meaning, really empowers you as teachers to go beyond those simple comprehension checks.
Definitely. We really hope you'll try out some of these varied research-backed strategies and activities. The goal is to create reading lessons that are not just effective in building skills, but also dynamic, engaging, and maybe even foster a genuine love of reading.
And here's a final thought to leave you with. We know proficient readers actively construct meaning and read for their own purposes. So what if we leaned into that more? What if we focused more on sparking learner curiosity, giving students more say in choosing texts that genuinely interest them or answer their questions? Could that turn every reading opportunity into a truly personalized deep dive for them?